I'm going to make this short. I like the Hodge twins. Okay, this is one of the Hodge twins podcast. I do not know the lady that they are interviewing, but I want you to listen to this.
Yeah, they always say they're God's chosen people.
Yeah.
I always say that from Republicans.
And then who are you?
Right.
Who are you worshiping?
Christ is king. Why is that labeled anti-Semitic?
Because it is.
Yeah, it goes totally against their religion.
If you say Christ is king, what's their job? How are they the chosen?
Right, yeah. Right.
Okay, it's not even just about Israel being chosen to do Tikkun Olam. Christians don't even know what the job of a Jew is, and it's Tikkun Olam. When you study what Tikkun Olam is, it is the polar opposite of we're born in sin. Christians claim that all humans are born in sin, and they push the original sin myth. It is an absolute myth. Jews were given a job by God, and Christians can't even tell you what it is. So it's not, the argument should not be that someone is saying that a person is, the false king of Israel. That's not the argument. The argument is that he was never anointed as a king. He never had political power. He never had authority. At the time he lived, Israel was not free. Rome had sacked it and was already pulling up the nonsense of calling it Palestine. Palestine, if you don't know what that means, it comes from a Hebrew word that means invader. And the Romans came in. They were the Palestinians. Okay? The Romans were the first Palestinians, period. It wasn't Arabs, it wasn't Jews, it was the Romans, because the word means invader. So the Romans took this and they said, okay, you want to call us Palestinians? We're going to name this place Palestine. We're going to take it over. They named all of Israel Palestine, not a section of it. People that support Gaza and this Palestine myth don't know where the word came from. They don't know the history. But the argument here that this lady is doing is off. Her argument should not be if that man is the king of Israel, what is the job of the Jews? No. Because the king has a different job from the Jews. If you're going to argue the last Mashiach prophecies, that's a different story. Jews do Tikkun Olam. That is their job. They are chosen to follow the Torah, to do the Torah in every generation. And by doing these two things, by following Torah, knowing Torah, studying Torah, and performing the actions and the rituals of Torah, they are performing something called Tikkun Olam. They are healing the world. When Christians say, oh, well, the law ended or any of that nonsense, it didn't. There's multiple references to it lasting forever, but I just want to play this video.
Right.
It is anti-Semitic. Christ was anti-Semitic. He said, you're the synagogue of Satan. Get out of here, you brood of vipers.
Yeah, that's actually a verse in the Bible.
You're the children of the devil. I don't understand how evangelical Christians read this and are like, they're our friends.
All right, so she's got many points, but okay, look over here. Hugo Paca says, wasn't this man Jewish? Laugh out loud. This is an ignorant statement. It's a very ignorant statement. It doesn't even counter any of the arguments that a Jew or a Christian would bring up. It doesn't bring up it. So George Soros is Jewish, and look how much destruction and chaos George Soros has set out. So I want to make a point here, okay? And I said Hebus Jebus, the false prophet, was not a religious Jew. You have two references to the life of this man. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me where I'm wrong on this debate point. You have two references to that man's life. You have the Christian gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then you have the Talmud, okay? It doesn't matter if you pick the Talmud over the gospel or the gospel over the Talmud. It doesn't matter. These are the only two references of this man's life. Which one do you pick? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Either one shows that he is not a religious Jew. He was sinning. He was doing things that we would call an error. I really shouldn't say sinning because you sound like a Christian when you say sinning. And, a Jew would say, well, you're off the path. You're going off the path. You're error. You're doing an error. Get back on the path. Okay, that's how a Jew would talk. But the point is that the reason I'm saying the word sin here is because Christians claim this man was sinless. That's completely false. All through the gospel, He has stories: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In Matthew chapter 5 alone, he's doing so much garbage he could have been put to death right then and there, and end of story. In Matthew chapter 5, he teaches false ideas about divorce, about marriage, about a second marriage, and it's all against Torah. It's all against what was already written. And you guys that are following him aren't paying attention to it. So it doesn't matter. You only got two references. I tell Christians this all the time. You got two references: the Talmud or the Gospels. Which do you choose? I will tell you something shocking. Everybody, well, not everybody, but most Christians know that there is references to him being punished and boiled in certain things. We'll just say that. We're going to keep this G-rated. And they're horrified at this and they're mad. But in all reality, when you take the gospel and all the listed errors and sins of that man and teachings that are absolutely against Torah, and then you compare it to the Talmud has made three or four things to say about his teachings that were really bad. He was basically a necromancer. The Talmud has a story that he did have a Jewish rabbi, and he was arguing with the rabbi. They weren't on good terms. And what ended it is the rabbi was in the middle of prayer, and this man comes in, the man that you all call king, it comes in and asks the rabbi a question in the middle of a prayer. You don't do that. You cannot interrupt a Jew in the middle of prayer because they have to start all over again. Okay, now there's sections of the prayer. When they get to the end of the section, they can pause, and without going to the next part, then they can talk to you. But if they're at the middle of this section or the beginning of this section, you're going to be waiting sometimes 10, 15 minutes for a response, maybe even a little longer. This is common knowledge among Jews, but he didn't know that. He got mad because his rabbi wouldn't answer him, and he asked it again, and then he walked out, and that's why he left his rabbi. That's not a good excuse. He ran around thinking his rabbi was ignoring him. He didn't even have basic Torah knowledge, and he was obsessed with, I don't want to say Kabbalah, but he was obsessed with mysticism, magics, things of that nature. And he had a thing for Egyptian necromancy. Okay, that's what the Talmud says. So when you look at the Talmud, you can find his errors and how he was not a good Jewish boy. But if you really want to read a report that is just pure negative about him, go to the Gospel. The Gospel has more stories, more of his errors, more of his sins, more of his teachings that are absolutely against Torah, against God, super anti-Semitic. So for Christians who sit there and get offended that the Talmud talks about his punishment, and they're like, oh, I'm so mad at the Jews, look what they wrote about him. You guys aren't even mad that your own references, the gospel, speaks disgustingly about that guy, whether it was true or not. Whether it's true or not, there's two references. Which do you choose? Which do you choose? They're both bad. This guy was not a king. He was never anointed. He had no political power. You couldn't even have a king in this time frame. You would have had to have fought off the Roman army. Hello? Rome completely was in control of Israel when that man walked around. And Rome was in control after that man died. Make it make sense.
Yeah, they always say they're God's chosen people.
Yeah.
I always hear that from Republicans.
And then who are you?
Okay, and she points out, if they're the chosen people, who are you? What does it mean to be chosen? They can't tell you. I like the Hodge twins. I really do. I watch them all the time. They have several channels. They have one that's called the Conservative Twins. They have an exercise YouTube, and then they have the Hodge twins. They do comedy sketches. I know who they are. I mean, I watch them. I am a fan of them, but they cannot tell you what is the job of a Jew. But they can sit there and say, oh, well, they're chosen. Why are they chosen? You don't even know. All right, anyways. Don't get me wrong. I like the Hodge twins, but unfortunately, they're Christians. I love that they're conservatives. I love that they're patriotic. I love that they are proud to be American and that they fight the racism of the left. I love that. But I will never support them for for being the religion that they are, because their religion is full of problems. Some of the best conservatives and patriots of America are the ones who are not Christian. I'm sorry. It's the truth.